Namaskar, Honorable Minister Shri Nitin Gadkari, Dr. Ratan Roy, Director of National Institute of Public Finance and Policy, my esteemed board members on CW, Mr. Jamshid Godrej, Anil Kakotkar, and Dr. Naushad Forbes, ladies and gentlemen, those of you who've joined in, a very warm welcome to you on this very special occasion for the launch of our report, Jobs, Growth and Sustainability, New Social Contract for India's Recovery. I am Dr. Arunabha Ghose, CEO of the Council on Energy, Environment and Water. CEW uses data, integrated analysis, and strategic outreach to explain and change the use, reuse, and misuse of resources. CEW is one of Asia's leading not-for-profit policy research institutions and has been ranked as among the 20 best climate think tanks in the world. गडकरी जी, आज हम आपके बहुत आभारी हैं कि आज आप हमारे CEW के इस मंच पर पधारे हैं। वैसे में हमारा नाम तो काउंसिल ऑन एनर्जी, एनवायरनमेंट एंड वाटर है, लेकिन इस ऑनलाइन मंच को हम परिषद के नाम से जानते हैं। Imagination cannot be locked down. Soon after the largest lockdown in the world was announced, CEW and NIPFP agreed to work together on designing the response to an extraordinary situation in which India finds itself. We confronted the contradictions head on. We recognized the challenges of assessing the economic situation in the face of data limitations. We prioritized equity to deliver minimum support to targeted beneficiaries. We looked for new drivers of investment and growth and also jobs, especially in small towns and rural India. And we asked if there were greenfield opportunities that would build resilience against future shocks and be sustainable. The main message of this report is that India needs a new social contract. This covenant between state, citizen, and enterprise would have two pillars: a commitment to jobs, growth, and sustainability, and building resilience against what we call tail end risks, risks which have very low probability but can have devastating impact. The report has solutions on MSME sector, on migrant and informal labor, to reduce environmental and public health risks, for food, energy, and water security, to sustain clean air in our cities, to allocate subsidies equitably, to strengthen the power sector, to encourage the energy transition, to move towards cleaner fossil fuels, but also deepen markets for renewables, and to build the hard and soft infrastructure to handle disasters. And each set of recommendations has details on timeline, the implementing institutions, the resources required, but also the resources that can be saved. And most importantly, the impact it will have on jobs, growth, and sustainability. Let me quickly illustrate a few key recommendations that the report brings out. India's MSME sector represents 90% of its industrial units. So we recommend a nationwide centralized digital platform, MISHRI, MSME Information System for Holistic and Real-Time Identification, Incentives, and Support. We believe this access to real-time credible information would allow for MSMEs to be included in the formal banking system, ensure efficient, targeted delivery of aid and incentives. We've also developed a vulnerability assessment matrix for all MSME sectors on various parameters such as their contribution to industrial value addition, to employment, their business risk in terms of cash in hand or the cash conversion cycle. This vulnerability assessment matrix allows for a ranking of the MSME sectors to prioritize the interventions. We've also suggested increasing the capacity of the MSME Samadhan delayed payment monitoring system to clear outstanding dues, and also increasing capacity of the National Company Law Tribunal to manage insolvency cases. In addition to the MSME sector, we look at a range of other areas in which we believe there can be interventions. We've recommended a nationwide environment and health de-risking mission, a climate risk atlas for India, an integrated emergency surveillance mechanism, a unified emergency response framework for citizens. But in each of these, also see that there are opportunities for new investment and jobs. There's more than 70,000 crore that can be brought in through bond market flows for just 4,600 crore of a credit enhancement subsidy for renewables. We find that 50,000 new jobs can be created for every 4 gigawatts of rooftop solar, which is also an MSME sector. We find that more than 1 lakh jobs can be created for 20 gigawatts of small and large microgrids. We find that there is a GDP multiplier effect of 1.9 lakh crore from the enhanced credit subsidy for infrastructure. These are just some examples that I wanted to illustrate of the kind of detailed analysis that we have done across the two institutions to look at the opportunities for jobs, for growth, and for sustainability. Let me now quickly turn to our collaborator, Dr. Ratan Roy, Director of the National Institute of Public Finance and Policy, to offer his initial remarks.
Thank you, Arnav, and welcome everyone. Gadkari ji, namaskar. Thank you very much for gracing this occasion. I must say at the outset that I read your interview, sir, in the Business Standard, and it was one of the most coherent things that I have read since this crisis started. I was very encouraged by it, and I'm sure other people are. You actually feel that, from that, the message you're giving is the message of this report, that we have to all work together within the limitations of our country, harnessing its opportunities. But what we work together is on three things that have not changed. We have to work together to create jobs. We have to work together to maximize growth so that those jobs offer career pathways for progress, and we have to do this sustainably. I will just confine myself to the macroeconomic assessment that we have done. As Aruna pointed out, there are data limitations. And when the time of the writing of this report, we have identified the data limitations. We have said what kind of data we need to look at going forward to come up with better assessments. And most recently, as a follow-up of this report, I and my co-author Amey Sapre have actually come up with estimates of the likely hit on GDP going forward, GDP nominal growth, essentially by looking at the demand side and the supply side. The supply side, we estimate recovery to happen almost completely in agriculture, to a large extent in industry. Greater recovery, the more we do these things in the report about MSMEs, because that is the key. And there'll be a hit in services. The big hit that we are facing is on the demand side. And the hit on the demand side is coming because people have lost significant amount of incomes going forward in the last 3 or 4 months. So to the extent that we are able to minimize the hit on the demand side, there will be a supply response. We were not sure of that a month ago. Now we are reasonably sure that there will be. And therefore the question becomes, how do we work on the demand side to minimize the hit? I think what Arnav has pointed out is on the supply side, there are immense opportunities. For sustainable growth itself provides opportunities not just for repurposing current growth and creating even more jobs, but also for mobilizing financing. The development of the bond markets, we always think of things like climate bonds and green bonds or clean bonds as a sort of adjunct to bond markets. But in India, our bond market is underdeveloped, and I think using these as leading edge sectors to grow the bond market is an important part of the report's recommendations. And I think doing that at scale is both feasible and possible, and would be a very lucrative and efficient source of finance for MSMEs going forward. The public leveraging that Aruna points out is very small. The leverage ratio is about 1 to 12. So I think the pandemic brings home 2 lessons to us. One, that if we are going to get growth, if we are going to get sustainability, if we are going to get jobs, we will stop having to think about the Indian economy as it is structured today, with a lot of people employed in agriculture, a lot of people working in the unorganized sector and MSMEs as a constraint. We are not China. And if we are going to transition to a much more formalized economy, that is going to happen only when we have a vibrant and robust agriculture sector, which is why the Prime Minister's mission to double farmers' income is so important. The pandemic brings home to us, I think, very sharply that again, agriculture has saved us. Our agricultural restoration will, in my estimate, be 85 to 90% of what it would have been without COVID. Second, that our MSME sector is dynamic. The kind of collapse across the MSME sector that was predicted by many and was a real threat has not happened, not because we have done a lot for them, because they have learned how to live in an environment of extreme resilience. My engagement with the private sector shows me incredible things. Large organized sector companies I know well are actually getting credit extended by their suppliers to them rather than the other way around, in the confidence that a good product will sell. The unorganized sector in rural areas is picking up, on its own, getting what support it can from government, but not waiting for government to provide the support. And therefore, I think going forward, if we are able to implement the MSME roadmap that Mr. Gadkari also proposed and spoke of in the Business Standard article, then assuring that these tail-end risks do not affect this sector is more important than trying to make this sector a big sector. Agriculture, the unorganized sector, and MSMEs are going to be the bedrock of this economy going forward for the next 5 years. And our inclusive growth, our dreams of a $5 trillion economy will succeed or fail based on how well these sectors do as efficient businesses. For me, that's the core message in this report, because these are the sectors that provide the jobs. These are the sectors that can be at the cutting edge of sustainability, and therefore these should be the sectors that are the spearhead of India's growth story going forward. Producing for the top 500 million consumers across the country, not just a handful of consumers in the metropolitan cities. Producing with assured access to finance and taking advantage of sustainability opportunities, not just using those as challenges. Government working with the MSMEs and the private sector, recognizing their principal role and that of agriculture in facilitating these sectors to be vibrant, robust places where people earn a healthy rate of return. The word EBITDA is as important in my view for MSMEs and for agriculture as it is for large industry, and we need to speak that language of EBITDA to make these sectors more vibrant. The report provides a number of suggestions on how this can be done. I therefore sort of recommend it to you to begin a conversation on India post-COVID or even during COVID that takes advantage of our strengths and pursues a specifically Indian path to development, where MSMEs, agriculture are at the spearhead of creating jobs, sustainable jobs, and therefore high and sustainable economic growth. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Roy. Thank you very much. Before we hear from the Honorable Minister, I'm going to request our Honorable Chairperson of CEW, Mr. Jamshed Godrej, also the Chairman of Godrej and Boyce Manufacturing Company Limited. Mr. Godrej, over to you.
Thank you, Arunabha. Gadkari ji, welcome to this program. We are honored that you could be with us here today. So, Honorable Minister Shri Nitin Gadkari, Dr. Ram Roy, Director, NIPFP, my colleagues at CEEW, Dr. Anil Kakodkar, and Arunabha Ghosh.
Mr. Godrej, your voice is breaking up a little bit.
Job. This you can't hear me. If you can't hear me,
we can hear you better now. Now we can hear you, Mr. Godrej.
Okay. So let me just say the warm welcome to all of you on this special occasion on jobs, growth and sustainability, a new social contract for India's recovery. As we all know, we are living in unprecedented, and this pandemic presents enormous problems across geographies, communities, industries, administrative agencies, and different services across India. And It has already aggravated a very vulnerable economic situation that we're in, and it has created huge humanitarian tragedy and has put the government in a very difficult position, having to choose between lives and protecting livelihoods. And it has tested the communities and local administrations, and it is ongoing. Uh, so we have to chart a way out of this very difficult situation. And so we need a new commitment to jobs, to growth, to sustainability, and to build resilience against low probability but high impact tail end risks. So this uh, uh, and we have some ideas and some solutions, but we have to understand the interlinkages that we are working in. And in this past 1 month, we've had enormous weather conditions also affect India. We had the hurricane super cyclone Amphan in the east. We had one in Maharashtra just recently. We've these locust swarms and extreme heat also in certain parts of the country. So these are really taxing our limits. And so at this time, we are launching this report, and our team have assessed and curated a set of economy-wide and sectoral issues that need policy, financial, technology, behavioral changes, and to address this very urgent issue. India is also at the center of an energy transition, and there are going to be very much change in the way that we are looking at way energy is produced and is consumed, and we will have to meet these rising demands whilst also lowering emissions. Uh, and in 2010, we had less than 20 megawatts of solar. And today we have a renewable capacity of 87 gigawatts. And it's also a very, very highly competitive market. And so this is a great transition and one of the places in the world where this transition is taking place very efficiently. India's future energy demand will also warrant significant amounts of oil, gas, and coal. But we must have forward looking policies, strong institutional mechanisms to create equitable energy systems, manage stress to our resources, and work within global markets. And of course, we are urbanizing rapidly, so we have to do that sustainably and efficiently. We have looked at several ways of enhancing green economy in India, and some of these would require some strategic decarbonization, rethinking our energy subsidies, decommissioning large and legacy thermal plants that are more than 25 years old, creating institutional frameworks for the power sector to
So, Godrej, we have
in electric, but also in other hydrogen, etc., mobility. So we have, we realize that if we do this transition, there can be huge benefits to our economy. And India spends 3 lakh crores annually to subsidize energy and energy products. We need to reallocate this in an efficient way. We could save 12,000 to 18,000 crores by decommissioning all these old thermal power plants, which are more than 25 years old. We need an additional 67,000 meter readers to read electricity meters throughout the country in agricultural areas, in households, etc. We have to accelerate the distribution of city gas rather than depend on on cylinders, and this can create a huge number of jobs. And our estimate is that we can create another 50,000 jobs by 2025. So we need to go through this transformation, And India's rural market potential for clean energy solutions is conservatively around 4 lakh crores. And here, this is another huge opportunity for us. So we need about 600 crores, which is about 0.6% of India's 2021 energy and healthcare budget, to solarize all of the unelectrified primary healthcare centers. This is a really important point, and this would provide medical facilities in underserved areas and create thousands of healthcare and allied jobs. So we are, whilst we are in the middle of all this pandemic, I think there is a lot that we can do, but we must also do this in a sustainable way with good environmental standards. I think people have noticed the fact that we've had clean air, we've had clean water in our rivers, and this is something that we need to sustain. And we need to do this with development and with growth and with jobs. And so I think the numbers in our report is very compelling. We can make difference. And the silver lining that I mentioned about, which is the clean air, is something that I think everybody in the country would be really keen on. Our Honorable Prime Minister has called upon us and Nirbhar Bharat, which is, of course, not only about self-reliance, but also to be in a position. So the report outlines these pathways. And hopefully, as we possibly can. So thank you, Gadkari ji, for being with us here today and gracing this occasion to launch this report. And I would now request you to give us your keynote address. Thank you.
Gadkari, you're a man of action. You're Minister of Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises for Road Transport of Highways, but also previously as Minister of Shipping and Inland Waterways and Ganga Rejuvenation. You have spearheaded a large number of infrastructure projects. And this report, and those projects are even underway, the fastest rate of building of roads in the country. But even more recently, announcements on MSMEs, trying to bring the traditional industry back, trying to create 500 new clusters. So all of this encourages us that as a man of action, you will see value in some of the recommendations that we've put forward. So we greatly welcome you. Thank you for joining us, and now request you to deliver your keynote address.
Honorable, respectable Mr. Jamshed Kudri, our senior friend, Dr. Anil Kakodkar, Dr. Rathin Roy, Dr. Naushad Forbes, Dr. Arun Bha Ghosh, all dear friends. हिंदी में या हिंदी में बोला तो चलेगा?
Please,
हिंदी is good.
आप हिंदी में बोल सकते हैं sir, but just to let you know, we will also transcribe the speech, and we had more than 500 registrations from more than 15 countries, sir. So there are a lot of people looking forward to listening to you.
Okay, sir. First of all, I am giving my special thanks to your research group, particularly the way in which you have already making research of Indian economy, and the priority is how we can create more jobs, growth and sustainability. My feeling is this is exactly the heart of the Indian economy. We have some strength and some weaknesses. The big population is a liability as well as it is a strength of the country. Now the young population, the number of young population in the whole world as far as India it is really a strength for Indian economy, and even it is a strength for a country that where a lot of good talented youth who are knowledgeable, who can become an asset for the country. Regarding about my department and my experience in my infrastructure projects, and I'm working in agriculture. So first of all, I will request you one thing, that every time when we think about any new policy, it is the time for the country that first you have to think about the agriculture, rural and tribal, and 115 aspirant districts, which are socially, economically, educationally backward, and their per capita income is very negligible. And this is one of the big concerns for the country. Particularly agriculture area, there are also some serious problems we are facing. We have surplus rice, surplus wheat. Even next 3 years, up to 3 years, our storage of rice, we don't have place for storage of rice now. It is totally full. Even the wheat, rice, we are surplus for 3 years. And for sugar also, there is surplus. That is a big problem. And we are giving subsidy to export sugar from our country. And for this year, for 60 lakh ton of sugar export, government is giving subsidy of 6,000 crore for that. The most important problem in this sector is the international price for agriculture commodities, and exactly the price in the market price and the MSP, there is a vast difference. Now, there are a lot of problems, some political problems are also there. It is very difficult for government to take the decisions. But the ground reality is that our MSP is higher than the market price and international price. So this is now going to create a big economic crisis for the country. We need to find out some options, some alternatives for that. And without that resolving the issue in agriculture, we cannot accelerate our economy, because maximum purchasing power where we need to increase the potential is agriculture. So first of all, yesterday I have a meeting with our previous cabinet secretary and principal advisor of Prime Minister, Mr. Sinha Sahab, P.K. Sinha, then secretary for food and civil supply, secretary agriculture, secretary MSME, Food Corporation of India chairman, then secretary for petroleum, and secretary of non-conventional energy. And we have a long 1 hour meeting. At that meeting, there was a presentation from Mr. Pramod Chaudhary from Praj. And I suggested to cabinet secretary that to prepare a policy, a cabinet note, where we can convert rice into ethanol, bioethanol. The present our ethanol turnover is 20,000 crore, and the import is 6 to 7 lakh crores. So now we are now planning to make ethanol economy as of 1 lakh crore. And for that reason, now we have 200 sugar factories which already did, and that factory we can convert into bioethanol, and even we can take it now rice to ethanol. 1 ton of rice is giving 430 liters of bioethanol. Even Punjab, Haryana, Bihar, some part of the Uttar Pradesh, we need to change crop pattern. And I suggest agriculture secretary that we should go for corn also. We have to reduce the acreage of wheat and rice. In Punjab and Haryana, we don't have place for storage also. And the minimum price for rotten rice is 6 rupees 50 paisa per kg. So this is a very, very very bad situation for the country. So one side we have surplus food grain, and other side we don't have place for the storage. So idea is, first of all, my priority is to develop agriculture, rural, tribal, and 115 aspirant district. We need to create more employment potential in rural, agriculture, tribal, and aspirant districts. That is to be most important emphasis, and which is very important. So this green economy of bioethanol, we can take it up to 1 lakh calor. And so now yesterday we have decided to make the policy for that. We need to change the crop pattern also. We are importing edible oil costing 90,000 crores. But problem is that the oilseed production in India is not up to the mark. The soybean production in USA per acre is 30 quintal, Brazil is 27, 28 quintal, and India it is 4.5 quintal. So now sunflower, soybean, fully, all type of oil seeds, where we need to change and making research of having a good seed with a good productivity. There is lot of debate about GM seed also. But this is the time that at any cost we need to find out some way out by which we can increase the edible oil seed production in the country. So first of all, what my feeling is, I actually already given instruction to my department, and we are going to publish a book that last 3 years, what are our imports and what are our exports. At least the first priority is that we should find out the way out for import substitute. I am giving you an example about small example of PPE kit. Actually, 2 months before we have imported one flight by PPE kit from China. But now our production in MSME, the PPE kit, is more than 5 lakh PPE kit per day. In Nagpur, we have one orange textile cluster. 18 proprietors are there. With the cooperation of MSME, they are doing good job. They are making this England Peter England shirt in Nagpur. They have got the capability of making good shirts, good pants. So I give them proposal to make it this PP kit. And now their production is increased to 15,000 kit a day. And now I requested Mr. Piyush Goyal that please give us permission to export PP kit to the different part of the world, because we have got the tremendous capacity now. So we don't need to take it PP kit from China now, but we are now starting export for that. I'm giving you the example of sanitizer. The when corona period starts, the sanitizer rate was 1200 rupees per liter. But we have requested all sugar mills in UP and Maharashtra and everywhere. Now they get the license. I requested Maharashtra government administration to give special license to manufacture of sanitizer to sugar factory. And today the sanitizer rate is 160 rupees per liter. And now also we are getting export order, and lot of people are now exporting sanitizer to abroad. So every atom wise, I personally request to Rotin Roy ji to please help me that how we can reduce our import. Yesterday, actually, I am giving one example about agarbatti sticks and the spoons using for ice cream. Actually, 4,000 crore import from China. Then we decided to increase the duty. The manufacturer people, very intelligent, they manage somewhere, and again they reduce that. Then I take it this to Prime Minister and Finance Minister, and I was annoyed. And 3 days, 4 days before, Finance Minister charged 30% duty on that. And now that agarbatti industry and this ice cream, this spoons and other thing from bamboo, at least we can create job for 25 lakhs people. And now industry is happy. It is moving fast. There is no problem. Now I'm giving an example of solar charkha. It is invented in Wardha by MGIRI, the Institute of Khadi and Gramodyog Research Institute under my ministry. So the solar charkha, now we are planning to make a scheme that at least 10 lakh women, we can give them 2 solar charkha. The price of one solar charkha is 45,000. It comes to 90,000. So we'll give them 1 lakh rupees loan. And at their home, there will be a solar panel, and they can make with a thread from that solar charkha and sell it to the power loom industry or textile industry. Already it is going on. The solar vastra is very popular. But our interest is to the principle of Mahatma Gandhi was that we need maximum production, but at the same time involvement of maximum number of persons. This watch is from Khadi Gramodyog. This belt is in Khadi. It is manufactured by Titan. And first I launched this watch, and within a month, now this is out of market. So we need to make new innovation, new research, by which we can create more employment potential in the handloom, handicrafts, and particularly the tribal area, and that is the need of the hour. Sir, actually, yesterday the presentation given by Mr. Pramod Chaudhary, now they are already in collaboration with Air Force. They are having a solution that they can make aviation fuel from ethanol. They can make butanol also, and that also they can make marine fuel and aviation fuel. Present our import of aviation fuel is 40,000 crore. Actually, rate is very high. And last 26 January, we have successfully run our fighter jet and helicopters on 100% bio aviation fuel invented by Institute of Petroleum in Dehradun. Then I have taken an initiative to taking SpiceJet flight from Dehradun to Delhi using 25% bio aviation fuel. The aviation fuel standards are already finalized, and this is a sector where we can save our import. And Mr. Godrej, I know that you are very much hard from your heart. You are linked up with this green environment. So now ethanol, methanol, biodiesel, bio-CNG and electric. As a transport minister, I will assure you that this is the dream of India, and I'm giving my highest priority for that. Actually, with my initiative now, Bajaj scooter and TVS both have bike and scooter on 100% bioethanol. In Nagpur, we have buses from Scania on bioethanol 100%. And even we can make a flex engine, which are available from all the automobile brands in the particularly in Canada, Brazil, and USA. They are using flex engine, whether it is a choice with a consumer to use ethanol or petrol. So we can make ethanol from biomass also. And it is also one successful experiment I am also doing here in Nagpur. We have 250 electric cars. Then we have converted 100 buses on bio-CNG. And the most important thing which I request Dr. Ratin Roy, that is conversion of waste into wealth. We can make the economy of 5 lakh crores. In Ganga, we have got biodigester. We can get it methane from that, and bifurcate methane from CO2, we get bio-CNG, and we can run our truck and buses on that. In Nagpur Corporation, we have loss of 60 crores. And out of 450 buses, 100 buses already converted on bio-CNG. So our expectation is the 40% saving is there. Import substitute, cost effective, pollution free and indigenous. And within a month, we are going to convert 450 buses on bioethanol. So the idea is now making bioethanol from the municipal sewage water. So this can be a good economy. I will give 2 examples to make your research and study for that. One is Nagpur, one is Indore, and third is Mathura. Now in Nagpur, we are selling our toilet water, sewage water to government of Maharashtra for power generation, and we are getting 325 crore rupees from toilet water. And now using that water for getting methane and bifurcate methane from CO2 to get bio-CNG, our idea is to run 450 buses on that, and even mayor car and our corporation car will be on bio-CNG. Already in Nagpur, we have auto rickshaw on bio-CNG, car on bio-CNG. Now we have successfully started one truck is on LNG. LNG is the fuel for the future. And ethics, economy, ecology, and environment. And we need sustainable growth. We need to create more jobs. At the same time, we need to think about our air pollution and water pollution is big concern. So the conversion of now the rice straw, Mahindra and Mahindra has taken, and I'm also working in my area, that rice straw is available as a waste material, and where we are going to convert rice straw into bio CNG. The 5 ton of rice straw, we will get 1 ton of bio CNG, and whole Punjab, Haryana, and Delhi we are facing problem because of this burning of parali, and that parallel we can convert on bio CNG. That will be import substitute, cost effective and pollution free. We are now identifying lot of ideas, research where we can make import substitute and we can create more job in the rural agriculture and tribal sector. My suggestion to Dr. Rathin Roy, you need to divide your report into 2 parts. One of the parts should be dedicated to rural agriculture, tribal, and 115 aspirant district make a new policy. I have reservation, particularly when anything which is on the report, research, or decision from the government, the rural sector, tribal sector is neglected. And that is the reason that my request to you is that we should make the report directly in 2 parts. One is for rural agriculture, tribal, particularly 115 aspirant district, how we are going to create jobs, growth, and sustainability. At the same time, we have to think about ethics, ecology, environment, and economy. I know that these are all important things, but there is a potential. I am giving a second example that we have got 7,500 kilometers of seafront. And already we have availability of waterways. Now we have started completed work in Ganga. Then we have completed work in Brahmaputra. Complete dredging is completed. Then in Barak also, we have already started water transport from Varanasi to Haldia. Then we are already complete the project of making 1 meter of draft from Allahabad, Prayagraj to Varanasi. And my idea was we have submitted report to World Bank, making waterways from Delhi, going to Mathura, Mathura to Agra, Agra to Etawah, and Etawah to Allahabad, by which Delhi can be connected to Northeast. Not only Northeast, up to Myanmar and China and Southeast Asia, by waterways it can be connected. So it is going to get a revolutionary change. And here we can use the biofuel as a fuel, marine fuel from agriculture. So this can be the thing where we need to create more jobs in agriculture. One of the important thing which I want to request you to make a study of it, because in government I have a lot of problems not getting good results from it, that in Maharashtra, actually the water problem is not a problem of the country. It is problem starts from Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh, Gujarat, Maharashtra, Orissa, Chhattisgarh, Jharkhand. Then it goes to Karnataka, Telangana, Andhra Pradesh, and Tamil Nadu. These are the states which are facing the acute problem, water problem. But there is some part of Bundelkhand in Uttar Pradesh and Madhya Pradesh, they are also facing the problem. So I have taken one initiative, but now it is really a very important thing that you can make a study of it, that दौड़ने वाले पानी को चलने के लिए लगाओ, चलने वाले पानी को रुकने के लिए कहो, और रुके हुए पानी को जमीन को पीने के लिए कहो. ऑन दिस एक्सपेरिमेंट NHI के जितने काम चल रहे थे, पर्टिकुलर इन महाराष्ट्र, वहां हमने हर ब्रिज को, कुछ ब्रिजेस को, 170 ब्रिजेस को बंधारा में कन्वर्ट किया. यू नो द एग्जांपल ऑफ लातूर, where we had taken drinking water from railway, train was there. So now there are 3 bridge come bandara where we are going to stop the water and which is going to resolve the water problem of Latur. The same way we are constructing 170 bridge come bandare. Then for our road construction we need aggregate. So a Buldana pattern is also there, and we have taken this aggregate from lake, from dams, and increase the capacity. At the same time, the rivers and nala we cover, and we make the dredging of it. Total in Maharashtra now, 189.04 lakh square cubic meter. We have get aggregate from it, and we increase the water capacity of 18,904 TCM, thousands cubic meter. So without any cost, this is free of charge, because at that time we have taken decision that government has issued one notification that if the NHI will take this aggregate and make water conservation, increase water conservation capacity, then there will be no charge. So we use this. Now the dam which are already we have making dredging in dams, the number is 319, and river and Nale, the number is 53. Only a Buldhana, where maximum forest suicides are there, we have taken 65.59 lakhs of cubic meter of aggregate. And Usmanabad, Latur, Nanded, everywhere we are working on it. And this is without any cost. We have resolved the issue of drinking water and creating lot of water for irrigation. So this can be a good idea. Making of big dams is not the final solution. Water is very, very important for the development of the rural agriculture and tribal. Without water, we cannot develop. And scarcity in irrigation is a big problem. The drinking water is a big problem. So this can be a source where we can make it. This can be a good experiment, and I will request you to make the research and study of all this Maharashtra work. I will see that you will get all type of help from my ministry for that, because we need to propagate it for Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, and everywhere. And at that time, when I was water resource minister, already I have taken decision to make this river connectivity project, where 16 DPR already we have prepared. That cost coming to at least 8 lakh crores. We need to get finance from World Bank, ADB, some foreign funds for that. And that project is going to resolve the water problem in the country as whole. So we can, even the Karnataka, Tamil Nadu dispute we can solve. We have already formulated the schemes for that. But these schemes, we need big capital cost with a low interest. So water is the most important thing for the rural agriculture and tribal area, where we can increase the agriculture production and create more jobs. The most important thing is now the fishing economy is of 1 lakh crore. And there is a problem that our fishing boats in the sea, they are going only up to 7 nautical mile. So our Cochin shipyard and the institute in Cochin, they have invented a trawler. The cost is 1 crore 25 lakhs. And now we have already manufactured that and giving 100 trawler to Tamil Nadu, because Tamil Nadu fishermen always entering into the limit of Sri Lanka. So we suggest them that you should take this trawler and go up to 100 nautical mile. Only by giving this facility of 100 nautical mile going by the trawler, we can increase the fishing production by 6 times. Already the economy size is of 1 lakh crore. We can make the blue economy of 5 lakhs crore. For salt water, there is one policy. For sweet water, there is also, we can lakes, dams, rivers, inland waterways, everywhere we can exploit this. There is a huge potential. We can make export of it. Presently, the volume is of 1 lakh crore, but easily we can go up to 5 lakh crore. And the most important thing is, already the 20,000 crore is given by Prime Minister package for fishing. And now the MSME, the Fishing Ministry and the Agriculture Minister, we are planning. We have just farmer produce company, like we can make fishing produce company. And if 5 fishermen come together giving 5 lakhs rupees from each, the 25 lakhs equity from the fisherman, therefore fisherman produce company, and 1 crore from MSME and fishing and other, then we can give trawler to them and increase the productivity, and there will be a processing plant, packaging, everything, and we can export it. There is a huge potential. So these are the sector. Now I'm talking about honey. We are increasing the production capacity by 10 times now. Now in Wardha, Acharya Vinoba Bhave's inspiration, we have Goras Pak biscuit. So beautiful. They are using the gai ka ghee, gai ka doodh or honey. And that biscuit is so popular, it is every time out of market. So now I requested Mother Dairy to formalize the thing. And now I am trying to start this project in Wardha. And this biscuit can export and can use, make a consumption of huge quantity of honey. So from honey, we can make some biscuit, chocolates, and sweets also. So the honey economy also can be give. And one of the important result from honey is, even in Haryana and Punjab, I visited the spots, that because of honey, the increasing in agriculture production by 20%. So that is the advantage. So these are the field, but we are now concentrating on many fields. And there are bamboo is there, then forest, Ayurveda material we can export. Now a lot of demand is there. So my suggestion to you that with growth, jobs and sustainability, the part A, the one of the report which classified it will be agriculture, rural, tribal and aspirant district, and that can give us a good vision for making formalize the policy for that region. My idea is to start agro MSME, where we can facilitate them and give them special facility. Regarding the other thing where I will request you, again, we need to decongest Mumbai, Calcutta, Chennai, Delhi, everyone he is going either Gurgaon, going to Mumbai, going to Pune, going to Bangalore, going to Chennai. These are going to create problem. Now I am constructing, Mr. Godrej will recognize this. What is the solution in Mumbai? What type of problem we are facing? The Mumbai covered by 3 sides by the sea. No place is available. And we are adding people to Mumbai. It completely destroy all ecology, environment, everything. What is happening in Dharavi? 1,50,000 people are working with the leather industry. Presently, I have a video conference with the leather industry. I requested them. Their present turnover is 1,45,000 crore, out of which 85,000 crore is domestic market and 45 to 50,000 crore is export. So I suggest them, I am constructing Mumbai-Delhi Express Highway. It starts from Sona, near Haryana, that is near Gurgaon, coming to Sawai Madhopur, Alwar, and going to Jhabua, Ratlam, and coming to Vadodara to Mumbai. So we reduce the distance between Mumbai to Delhi by 220 kilometers. Out of 62 package, 32 packages are already awarded. Work is in progress. Land acquisition is completed. And I'm going to complete this highway within 3 years. And it will be easy for getting Delhi to Mumbai within 12 hours by car and 26 to 28 hours by truck. So it's going to reduce the logistic cost. And my idea is to I am working that it can be an electric highway. So one of the Swedish company, we are working it that the trucks and buses will be running on electric as a fuel. And you are absolutely correct, Mr. Godrej. Now we need to have ecology and environment is also the one of the important thing for the country. And that is the reason that we need to go for alternative fuel and we have to reduce the pollution for that. So there is the huge potential. The other part of is that which you are the best people. I'm not the economist and neither I'm a politician. I have my limitation. But I will request you, the present our GDP is of 200 lakh crore. Out of which 20 lakh crore we have already declared the package. And 10% is budget deficit now. That is 10 lakh crore. State government and Bharat Sarkar. So 30 lakhs crore ho gaya. So I feel that this is the time for Indian industry, Indian MSME, and even for the opportunity for India to take foreign investment. Now it is up to you to decide about it, because I know only my infrastructure problem where I am taking now. We have started my target for 2 years making roads of 15 lakh crore. And we have just signed an agreement with a foreign bank, getting foreign credit for that. So it is on the public-private investment. My project, 480 projects, which already with me, they are economically viable. And now my total income is 28,000 crore per year. And actually in the end of March, I am expecting 40,000 crore. And within 5 years, my total income of NHI will be 1 lakh crore. I am making 2,000 petrol pumps, giving land to petroleum companies, that revenue I will get it. And we are making industrial cluster, roadside industrial clusters on Mumbai-Delhi Express Highway. We can make smart village and smart cities there. And fortunately, it's a very interesting thing. The land acquisition rate is 10 to 15 lakhs rupees per acre. In Delhi, Mumbai, Ahmedabad, Surat road, the roadside acquisition rate was 3 crore rupees, 2 crore to 3 crore per acre. So we save 16,000 crore on land acquisition. So the land is available with maximum 20 lakhs rupees per acre. And we can make a leather cluster in Thane district and take all Dharavi 1,50,000 people there. We can make designing sector, ancillary industries, everything will be there, and direct export from that side. And there will be housing, either it is on rental basis or Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana, smart village, smart city, 24-hour water, everything, green environment. And they can, even they can, one hall in their house, they can make this, all this work there. They can, even we can improve the situation, what the worst situation in Dharavi. So we can make leather cluster there, food cluster, plastic cluster, chemical cluster. And we can develop new smart cities and smart villages by decongesting Delhi, Mumbai, Kolkata, Chennai, Bangalore, this type of big cities. This is very important. Otherwise, we are going to destroy. Already the situation is bad in Bangalore. All people are fed up. The software engineer, he is going to his office, getting 2.5 hours to go to office and 2.5 hours for coming from the office. This is the time he is wasting for that. Aziz Premji was telling me it's a very worst situation. So this is the time we can develop the new urban city, smart city, new smart villages. And there we need, these are economically viable. At the present government scheme we can use, and we can make it. There are 18 to 19 schemes. By taking advantage of all this scheme, we can make it. And the last important point where I will request you, only you should think about it, how we can get more foreign investment, FDI. Is it possible for us to get FDI in NBFCs? I feel that that can be a good route. We need to go to Reserve Bank and Finance Ministry to find out the way out to giving permission for that. Now FDI in infrastructure is allowed. I am trying my level best to get pension fund, insurance fund. Our pension economy, insurance economy, share economy, we have a lot of potential. Now we have a fund of 50,000 crore. And now that is fund giving to the MSME, those who have good exports. We have a good turnover in bank account, good GST record, good income tax record. We will make the rating for them, and we will give purchase the equity 15% from government side, and they will go to capital market, and there will be a MSME stock exchange in the same stock exchange, and the capital, particularly from the abroad, foreign people can invest there. So we'll get the foreign fund from that. We can get foreign fund in infrastructure. Even this is the time, the whole world, the funds are available. They are keenly interested to invest in India. Our interest rate is very high. In the South Korea, anyone deposit the money, he has to give the interest. He is not getting the interest. The Japan interest rate is 0. So this is the appropriate time to get a foreign investment by which we will increase the volume of our economy, which is going to increase more liquidity in the market, that is going to increase the purchasing power, and 100% that is going to increase our growth and create more employment potential. That is the option which I feel so. And that is the reason that we need to have upgradation of technology. We need more foreign investment, and people like you can find out the way out. What are the sectors? How we are going to get more investment in the sectors? And this is the time that we need to find out the way out for that. A liberal policy, transparency, time-bound decision-making process, and 100% corruption-free system. The technology and money is not the problem. I'm giving an example. In last 5 years, I was the Minister for Shipping and Ports and Inland Waterways. My budget was 800 crore per year. So 5-year budget comes to 4,000 crore. But we have started one project named as Sagarmala of 16 lakh crore. And our major ports are now in profit. 7,000 crore profit is there. So JNPT profit is 1,800 crore. And now with the help of the ports, we have completed the project more than 6,50,000 crores by using the strength of the ports. Our budget was only 800 crore. So the money is not the problem. The technology is not the problem. The appropriate vision fast track decision making process, the transparency, corruption free system. And now the ease of business is very important. We have already taken, our number is increased, World Bank is already increased our rank. But also we need to make more reform, more changes. And by full transparency and corruption free system, we can attract the foreign investment and foreign technology in the country. We need to reduce import, increase export. We need to create more employment potential in urban or in rural, tribal, agriculture sector. We need to use forest material for that, for industry. We need to plan for making agro-processing industries, food processing industry in the village area. We can go for bioethanol. We can make the 40,000 crore of economy of ethanol, making the ethanol economy of 1 lakh crore. Then we can go for aviation fuel, marine fuel from agriculture. Because agriculture is the important thing, because you already know that our agriculture growth contribution is only 8%, 8 to 10%. Manufacturing is 20 to 24%, and service sector is 50 to 54%. Now in manufacturing and agriculture sector, we need more progress. And where sector there is a lot of potential is available, and you have to find out and give us a guideline that how we can reduce our import and create more jobs, the import substitute in the agriculture, rural and tribal area, by creating more opportunity for the people belongs to that area, where there will be no question arise about this migrant labor. Why people are coming to Mumbai and Delhi? It is really, it's really a painful for me. It is now I'm Mumbaikar. Mr. Godrej is facing the problem. How the people are going in that local, how this is really now beyond all capacities completed. So this is the time to decongest the big cities, plan for smart city and smart villages where the job will be available, and particularly rural tribal area will be the priority. At the same time, we have taken a lot of measures for protecting our present MSMEs. We are now already have restructured 6 lakh MSMEs up to March end. We have increased date up to 31st December by giving this 20,000 crores of special this loan that we can give as a equity to the MSME, those who are not covered under the policy of present because of NPA norms, where we can give the equity to the proprietor, by which it can be possible for the bank to make the restructure of that MSME. The 2 lakh MSME will be benefited. The 3 lakh crore which we are given, 45 lakhs MSME will be benefited from that. At the same time, we change the definition. That is the reason that it can be a very, very revolutionary decision taken by the government. So now the export turnover is excluded from that. And that is also very important. It is giving a good support to MSME. And I feel that idea of this agro MSME, agriculture export, then creating handloom, handicrafts, other things, we need your help. And on the basis of that, I also go through your report. I will give you this report to my ministry also. But my suggestion is the big report is there. But in government, you give part wise. And for agriculture, rural, tribal, this is our suggestions. For our MSME, particularly for banking system, this is our suggestion. For our new technology, this is suggestion. We divide it into a part, because we don't have research scholar in government. The people who are not getting jobs anywhere, they are fully capable for getting government services. So I don't want to elaborate more. We have a lot of talent we need, but actually the system is so bad. It is very difficult to create positivity and really to make the research and studies very, very difficult. The two philosophy I propagate. One is conversion of knowledge into wealth. Innovation, entrepreneurship, science, technology, research, skill, and successful practices, we name it as a knowledge. And conversion of knowledge into wealth, and conversion of waste into wealth. I feel that no one is waste. Previously, I was the chairman of the Bharatiya Janata Party. So I always argue to my people that no one is a liability, no one is a negative man. It is depending upon the leadership that you can use the material, any material. You may call it as a waste material, but using appropriate technology, you can convert waste into wealth. So this is the time that ethics, economy, ecology, and environment. These are the important things. The Prime Minister dream for 5 trillion economy and 100 lakh crores of infrastructure is a big challenge. I know that presently we are facing very serious problem because of coronavirus. We will get a vaccine as early as possible that will resolve the issue. But the economic war is going ahead. It is very difficult. It's not an easy path. The whole world is facing the problem. But with positivity and self-confidence, हम होंगे कामयाब. कोशिश करने वालों की हार नहीं होती. और अटल बिहारी वाजपेयी जी की कविता थी कि कदम से कदम मिलाकर चलना होगा. सो आई रिमेम्बर दैट थिंग. क्योंकि लोग निराश हो गए, बहुत फ्रस्ट्रेट हो गए हैं, उनको शून्य में देखते हैं और ऐसे तो मरने ही वाले हैं. फिर निराशा, फ्रस्ट्रेशन, निगेटिविटी, तो उसका रिजल्ट तो खराब ही है. पर जीतने के आत्मविश्वास के साथ, सेल्फ कॉन्फिडेंस के साथ, पॉजिटिविटी के साथ हम इसको हराएंगे. अगर हम जीतेंगे निश्चित रूप से, तो हराएंगे तो निश्चित रूप से हम जीतेंगे ही और हमारे पूरे उद्दिष्टों को हम सफल बनाएंगे. तो पॉजिटिविटी एंड सेल्फ कॉन्फिडेंस क्रिएट करना ये भी बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है. फियर, डर, फ्रस्ट्रेशन, निराशा ये बहुत खराब है. इससे कुछ नहीं होगा, उससे ज्यादा नुकसान होगा. और मुझे लगता है कि definitely people like you, Mr. Godrej, I have always a great respect for him, always working for ecology, environment, sustainable development, growth. Your advice is very important. Dr. Kakodkar is here. He's really one of the genius person. We need your advices, your suggestions. But only thing is that there is a quite difference between your IQ and our IQ. So make it a preliminary language, chapter wise, very simple language, and give it to us. Then it will be more easy to implement in government. If you give it like a research scholar, you always, it is not appropriate for me to explain clearly, but in government you understand what are the limitations, and on the basis of that give this report in a way by which we can implement it chapter wise, sector wise, part wise. So that can be really a good asset for it. We are already on execution. We will definitely consider your all suggestions, and I'm giving my special thanks to all concerned people, authorities for making research of it. Thank you very much. Namaskar.
Thank you, Gadkarji. You have covered pretty much everything that is in the report and more. You have talked about bioethanol, you have talked about local manufacturers, PP kits, solar charkha, e-mobility, circular economy of municipal wastewater, decongestion of cities, clean air. All of these issues we have covered in the report. Just hold it up for you to see it, and the chapter wise and specific issue wise recommendations we are sending out from CEW to all the ministries and all the state governments individually. But with taking a little bit more of your time, I'm going to request our trustee of CEW, Dr. Kakodkar and Dr. Naushad Forbes, to offer some remarks, because we have actually covered a lot of stuff on the rural economy in this report. Dr. Kakodkar, over to you.
Thank you, Honorable Minister Shri Gadkari ji, Mr. Godrej, Dr. Forbes, Dr. Roy, Dr. Arunabha Ghosh, and everyone else present in this meeting. I am actually struck by what Gadkari ji has spoken. Of course, he speaks in a very action-oriented fashion all the time. But today it seemed to me was quite special. And so I would say that's a speech where actions precedes policy. And sort of, you can take it on a more informed basis. It also looked to me that the basic thrust of this report, jobs, growth, and sustainability. And the report, somewhere in between, it says that the normal thinking is that all the three cannot happen together. The policymakers rule that out. And this report, I think, is very refreshing because it advocates doing all the three things together. And it almost looks to me that the philosophy of Mahatma Gandhi has come back. This is what he used to argue, of course, consistent with the framework of that time. But it looks to me that the history has gone a full circle. And of course, Gadkari ji, what you remarked, and also earlier also, I have been always noticing these traits. So I think, to me, it looks like we are all on the threshold of a new paradigm in policy making. And to me, to realize this trinity of jobs, growth, and sustainability, we also need to organize ourselves in a way where technology, sustainability, particularly environment sustainability, and also human resource development, education, training, skilling, all go hand in hand together, right where the action is. And Gadkari ji, you very kind of appropriately stressed on the emphasis on the rural agriculture and tribal domain. Because even today, more than 50% of India's population lives there. And the per capita income in that group is way below the average and certainly way below the urban population. And so unless we emphasize, as you very correctly observed, on the economy in the rural, agriculture, and tribal areas, I think it's important for the growth of economy, but it's also important for minimizing the disparities that we have. And in so doing, particularly in the context of experience that we have gone through in this COVID-19 pandemic, I think as emphasized in this report and as you have emphasized, I think working with a social contract involving all concerned stakeholders, the government, the industry, the society, everybody. I think that is absolutely essential. And that to me is an important takeaway from this report. And as you have very appropriately suggested that we could split this report to look at the rural agriculture tribal domain as one segment and the rest as another segment, I think one can pay much more focused attention to this area. In all this, it's quite obvious that capacity building of people where you want economy to grow. So in this case, capacity building of people in rural areas is very important. And for that to happen, the technology, education, and knowledge has to go hand in hand with this development. And I have, for this purpose, talking about a concept called SILAGE, Bridge Cities and Villages. From this point of view, and I think it's important. Prime Minister has given a call for Atmanirbhar Bharat. Mahatma Gandhi had given a call from Gram Swaraj. I think you want Atmanirbhar Bharat, we have to do a lot of things on the urban areas. To me, it looks that unless we have Atmanirbhar villages, Atmanirbhar Bharat will probably remain only half fulfilled dream. And in that context, there are several. In fact, Gadkari ji himself, he has given several examples. My colleagues from IIT Bombay, they are talking about energy Swaraj in the context of solar energy. And there is a major program essential to reach the standalone solar energy in households which are not electrified or where electricity does not reach. CEW itself, in their earlier work, have identified something like 3.77 crore market for clean energy solutions for productive use in rural economy. Gadkari ji, you mentioned about the energy agricultural nexus, particularly in the context of bioethanol or converting rice straw to 2G bioethanol. And it looks to me that that is a major transformation which would take place in the agricultural sector, not just food, but also energy, and to do that in a manner where we don't create conflict between food and energy. And I think these are all big drives for the growth of economy of a country in an inclusive way. So I think the uh, the the new India, the new economy style. I think there are several opportunities. Many of them have been defined by Honorable Minister himself, but there are others embedded in the report. And I think all that would certainly. Food sector, for example, similarly is another such area where there is this question of surplus of food in some areas, shortage of food in other areas, which Honorable Minister alluded to. There is also this question of very fluctuating prices. Some of it happened because of the shelf life, limited shelf life, but some of it happened because of the way our marketing mechanisms have been thus far. The recent policy changes which have been brought in place, I'm sure will make a big difference. But here again, the digital marketing, where a lot of young people can involve themselves and find their livelihood or jobs, can make a big difference in securing the market for farmers, and also making sure that the price differential between what the farmer gets and what the buyers pay, the ultimate buyers pay, can be brought down by eliminating a lot of middle processes. So I think it's important that we should make a new beginning, and rather than being constrained by the things or the business as usual mode, there are several ways which Honorable Minister himself has pointed out, and I think we should make a beginning on that.
Thank you.
Let me now, just 1 minute, I must talk a little bit about the tail end risks. That's another important thrust of this particular document. I often describe tail end risk as a catastrophe syndrome, primarily because they do not conform to the conventional risk benefit logic. They, we should get this addressed significantly by remaining close to stable overall equilibrium while pursuing faster growth or higher technology. What happens is many times when we get into these new paradigms, we drive ourselves to unstable equilibrium, and whenever there is a perturbation which we cannot sustain, we suddenly get into the so-called limited or the tail end risk or disaster. And this happens at multiple levels. For example, at farmers, suicide can be seen as something like this happening at individual level. At area level, we can think in terms of drought, storms, earthquakes, again, similar problem, and across geographies, as we have seen in the context of reverse migration. So I think that's another domain. When we talk about sustainability, we should not talk about only environmental sustainability, but also maintaining a sustainable equilibrium so that it can withstand perturbations, which will always arise and should not affect our equilibrium. In business, we call it de-risking. We should talk about de-risking over a more robust domain. I just want to raise one point which Honorable Minister may like to offer his advice or views. I read a survey, it was a limited survey by MART, which talks about something like 25% of our workforce in the country being migrant workers. And it says that out of this 25%, of course, not everybody would have gone back to their villages, but the survey says those who have gone back to their villages, 25% are likely to stay put. They will not return. 56% would return to work which they were doing earlier, but 19% would return to places which are nearer, not far away places. And so these are the people who are looking for jobs. And in that context, I'm particularly driven to the 25%. Now, this survey is limited, this number may not be right, but it looks to me that a significant fraction would want to stay back in villages if there is a possibility. And for that purpose, I think, can we think of bringing jobs to villages? And Honorable Minister, you gave several examples. So just like we talk about work from home in the urban context or IT context, can we create environment leveraging knowledge technologies and the skills of these people who have brought back with them?
Dr. Kakurkar, sorry, the Honorable Minister has another meeting. So sorry to cut you
Yeah,
off.
okay. Yeah, just last sentence, I'm finishing. So I'm saying work from village as a concept, can we do something?
Sure.
And also this will help reduce disparities because it will raise rural income, and that will be both important for the growth of economy as well as reduction of disparities. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Kakurkar. I'm just going to request Dr. Forbes to speak for 1 or 2 minutes to close off the session, as the Honorable Minister has to go to another meeting.
Thank you, Minister, Rathin, my friends at CEW, ladies and gentlemen. I'll be very brief, given the time. I will make just three sentences. First, around Minister, your very eloquent argument in favor of agro MSMEs that can truly drive the rural economy forward. And we will come back to you with some thoughts on how we can foster agro entrepreneurship and entrepreneurship within MSMEs that are focused around the agro sector, because that's really what the need will be to get thousands of enterprises operating district by district in the country. Second is in the area of a social contract. When we talk about employment in MSMEs, the bulk of that employment is informal employment, as you know, and 90% of all our employment in the country is informal. And the problem for informal employment is that we have complete flexibility and almost no protection. So we need, and then in the formal sector, we have almost complete protection and no flexibility. And I think with the current crisis, this is a great opportunity for us to develop a new social contract with new labor policies in place that will run across informal and formal employment, that will address a balance between protection and flexibility. And I think no one better than you, really, sir, to work on this, because with your implementation capabilities, it's a huge task. It's one that we'd be very happy to work closely with you in coming up with that new social contract that will provide the right balance between flexibility and protection to protect the entire workforce and to provide the flexibility that enterprises need. And the last point is really around what you spoke about so eloquently with regard to our cities and slums and what we need to do there. It is a huge challenge. And we recently had a program with Abhijit Banerjee, and I asked him a question and said, what's the right way of going about it? Is it a large public works program to really redevelop our slums, or is it something else? And he spoke actually about two things. He spoke about decongesting cities, as you mentioned, in terms of, can we develop, say, something in Thana district, which could be a leather cluster such that we create employment opportunities there, which will automatically then attract people to move there. But when we do that, he talked a lot about FSI regulations. And he said that, one of the challenges that we have in our country is that we have the lowest FSI of any major country in the world in terms of our cities' FSI regulations. And he says if we address the FSI regulations very fundamentally and look at actually over time increasing them by a factor of 5 or 10, it can actually provide a much higher quality of life where we can free up a lot of land and we can actually improve the overall well-being. The problem today is that you either have slums or you have very, very affluent housing in cities like Mumbai. You don't have the whole gradation of housing options in between. And I think, again, at such a crisis time is the time to address some of these fundamental questions. So I will stop there with those 3 points. I think they really are an opportunity for a new social contract around entrepreneurship in rural areas, around labor policies and labor regulations, and around how we think about our cities in their own development going forward.
On behalf of, thank you, Dr. Forbes. On behalf of CEEW, NIPFP, and our audience of hundreds this morning from over 15 countries, our sincere gratitude to Shri Nitin Gadkari ji for gracing this occasion with us. He has always been a champion of transformative and sustainable change in India. He has already led numerous systemic improvements across our farm sector, industry, infrastructure, transportation, and clean energy. Today, he has set the agenda for us. He has gone up to the points in our report. He has gone far beyond that to tell us how we can bring transformative change to build an Atmanirbhar Bharat. Our report, Jobs, Growth, and Sustainability, new social contract for Indian recovery, is present on our website. You may please download it from there. We will also mail a copy to all of you who have attended this session today. On behalf of CEW, I also want to thank Dr. Atin Roy at NIPFP and his team, Dr. Amay Chapre and Ms. Amrita Pillai, for collaborating us on this report. And over the coming weeks and months, we will be engaging with stakeholders in government, in industry, in civil society, in international fora to take forward the ideas that Mr. Gadkari has set for us, for the ideas that are contained in our report. And all together, we will build an Atmanirbhar Bharat. As Sir has said, Gadkari ji, that we need the confidence, we need to believe in ourselves, it's entirely possible. And we want to hear from you what you think of our report, how we can take this forward. Please write in to us. And with this, we will close our session. Thank you for joining today. Gadkari ji, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Namaste.
Thank you, Gadkari ji.
Goodbye. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Thanks
And
for everyone who has
thank
joined.
you.
We'll see you on the
Thank you,
next
sir.
edition of Parishad. And you can download the report from ceew.in. Thank you.